You push yourself up from your favorite chair the way you have thousands of times before. Almost without thinking, your hand reaches for the armrest first. Your feet settle beneath you. Your legs hesitate for the briefest moment, and then they finally respond. A few careful steps later, everything seems normal again. You probably dismiss it before you even reach the kitchen. It doesn't feel like weakness. It doesn't even feel like aging in any dramatic sense. It's simply a small pause, so familiar that it has become part of your morning routine. Yet your body notices it every single day, even when you don't. Moments like this rarely arrive with pain or alarming symptoms. They arrive quietly. One morning blends into the next, and that tiny hesitation repeats itself again and again, almost unnoticed. 365 mornings become another 365, while something beneath the surface continues to change. Inside your legs, an invisible process has been unfolding for years. Your muscles are still there, your joints still carry you, but the conversation between your brain and your muscles is beginning to sound a little different than it once did. Not enough to stop you from living your life, just enough to leave subtle clues. You were never meant to feel embarrassed by those clues. Most people don't recognize them because nobody ever explained what they really mean. They simply assume this is the unavoidable price of growing older. But if this feels so ordinary, if it happens to people who still take daily walks and try to stay active, then another question naturally follows. Why are your legs changing anyway? And what is your body trying to tell you? That question has puzzled researchers and older adults alike for years. You can walk every morning, rarely miss a day, and still notice that climbing stairs feels harder than it did 5 years ago. Rising from a low chair demands a little more effort. Your balance feels slightly less certain. If walking is supposed to protect your legs, why does this keep happening? The easiest answer is to blame age itself. Age certainly plays a role, but it is not the whole story. Others assume the problem is a lack of motivation or discipline. Many believe they simply are not walking far enough or quickly enough. Each explanation contains a small piece of truth, yet none fully explains why strength often fades, even in people who remain remarkably active. And this is where the mystery becomes more interesting. The missing piece is not an expensive machine, a complicated exercise program, or the latest fitness trend promoted by someone half your age. It is something far simpler. You may already have everything you need at home. A sturdy chair, a kitchen counter, or another stable surface could be enough to help your body respond in a completely different way. Almost nobody talks about this because the conversation usually stops at keep walking. But there is another layer of biology underneath that advice, and once you understand it, the solution begins to make perfect sense. Before I explain why this works, I need to be honest about something that has made this entire topic far more confusing than it should be. That confusion did not appear by accident. Over the past decade, advice about building stronger legs has become buried beneath dramatic headlines, miracle exercises, celebrity workout routines, and social media videos promising to transform your body in just a few days. One person insists walking is all you will ever need. Another claims a single movement will solve every problem from weak knees to stubborn weight gain. Neither approach treats your body with the respect it deserves. I find that kind of advice genuinely frustrating. Not because movement is unimportant, but because the explanation is usually missing. Your muscles are living tissue. They do not recognize trends, marketing, or popular opinions. They respond to biology. They respond to mechanical load, which is the physical challenge placed on muscle fibers. They respond to motor unit recruitment, the process where your nervous system calls more muscle fibers into action when greater force is required. And they respond to consistent adaptation, repeating small challenges often enough that your body decides becoming stronger is worth the effort. Once you understand those principles, many popular claims begin to fall apart on their own. You no longer have to guess which advice sounds convincing because you can judge whether it matches the way human physiology actually works. This is why you will not be asked to buy expensive equipment, attempt risky exercises, or place your trust in exaggerated promises. Every recommendation in this video follows a logical chain from muscle biology to real-world movement, allowing you to understand not only what to do, but why your body responds the way it does. The real science is fascinating on its own. It does not need marketing or mysticism to make it worthwhile. It simply needs to be explained clearly. So let's begin with what is actually happening inside your legs every year after the age of 50. If this style of explanation feels refreshing, that is exactly why this channel exists. There is no shortage of health advice online, but much of it asks you to accept conclusions without ever seeing the reasoning behind them. You deserve better than that. You deserve to understand how your own body works, because knowledge makes everyday decisions far less confusing. If you appreciate calm, evidence-based conversations that respect your intelligence instead of chasing sensational headlines, consider staying with us. That is what these discussions are built around, exploring the biology behind common health questions in a way that is practical, balanced, and grounded in research rather than trends. With that foundation in place, we can leave opinions behind and focus on something far more interesting. Your muscles have been following the same biological rules your entire life, and those rules explain far more than most people realize. Now that we've established the approach, let's follow the chain of events unfolding inside your muscles. Your muscles have never measured your age by the number of birthdays you've celebrated. They respond to signals. Those signals gradually change over time, and that is where this story begins. Beginning somewhere between your 30s and 40s, most adults naturally start losing muscle mass. Researchers estimate that the average decline is around 3 to 8% per decade after age 30, with the process often accelerating after age 60. This gradual loss is known as sarcopenia, which simply means age-related loss of muscle tissue and strength. It happens quietly, long before many people notice any obvious limitation. The change is not spread evenly throughout your muscles. Type 2 muscle fibers, often called fast-twitch fibers, are affected earlier and more dramatically than slower endurance fibers. These are the fibers that help you stand up quickly, climb stairs, catch yourself if you stumble, or step confidently over a curb. They are your reserve of strength and power. Walking is wonderful for your heart, your lungs, and your circulation. Yet it mainly asks your slow-twitch muscle fibers to perform a familiar task over and over again with relatively low resistance. Your body becomes efficient at that activity, but efficiency is different from strength. Muscles only receive a strong message to grow or maintain themselves when they experience enough mechanical load, the physical demand that tells them they are still essential. Without that challenge, another process begins to slow. Muscle protein synthesis, which is your body's ongoing repair and rebuilding system for muscle tissue, becomes less active. Your muscles are still capable of renewing themselves, but they receive fewer reasons to invest energy in staying as strong as they once were. Something else changes at the same time. Your nervous system gradually recruits fewer motor units during everyday movement. A motor unit is a single nerve cell and all the muscle fibers it controls. When those nerve signals become less frequent or less demanding, some muscle fibers spend more time sitting idle. They have not disappeared. They are simply being called into action less often. And you have probably felt the results without realizing what caused them. Standing from a deep chair takes more effort. Carrying groceries feels heavier. Recovering your balance after a small trip becomes slower. This matters because approximately 1 in 4 adults over 65 experiences a fall each year, and reduced quadriceps strength is one of the strongest predictors of declining mobility and independence. The encouraging news is that your body remains remarkably adaptable. Muscle protein synthesis continues well into older age, and resistance-based movement reawakens dormant motor units while strengthening muscles, tendons, and connective tissue together. During the first 6 to 8 weeks of consistent training, many improvements come not from larger muscles, but from better communication between your brain and your muscles. Your nervous system simply becomes more efficient at using the strength you already have. That biological partnership is the key to everything that follows. But this is exactly where many well-intentioned people unknowingly work against their own biology. Once you understand how your muscles respond, The mistake becomes surprisingly easy to see. Many people notice their legs feeling weaker, so they respond by walking farther, walking faster, or adding another lap around the neighborhood. That sounds perfectly reasonable, because walking has long been recommended as one of the healthiest activities for older adults. The advice itself is not wrong. It is simply incomplete. Walking asks your muscles to repeat a movement they already know how to perform efficiently. Your heart and lungs continue to benefit, your circulation improves, and your endurance grows. But your largest leg muscles receive very little reason to become stronger, because the mechanical load rarely changes. Your body keeps refining efficiency instead of preserving power. You were never at fault for believing otherwise. For decades, public health messages focused on helping people move more, and with good reason. Regular walking lowers the risk of many chronic diseases and remains one of the best habits you can keep. What those messages often did not explain is that cardiovascular fitness and muscular strength are related, but they are not the same biological system. Every morning you rely only on walking to rebuild strength. Your muscles receive the same familiar signal instead of the stronger message they need to adapt. The days accumulate, then the months. Eventually, the small hesitation you noticed at the beginning of this video becomes a little more noticeable. The encouraging part is that this pattern can change. The question is no longer whether walking is valuable. It certainly is. The real question is this: if walking is not the whole answer, what belief has been quietly misleading so many people? At this point, you may be wondering whether everything you have heard about walking was wrong. It wasn't. The belief that walking is the best exercise for strong legs developed for understandable reasons. For many years, doctors and public health organizations encouraged people to become more active because inactivity had become a major health concern. Walking was safe, accessible, and effective for improving cardiovascular health, making it one of the easiest recommendations to give. The message was valuable. It simply became oversimplified as it spread. Walking protects your heart, supports healthy circulation, and contributes to better overall fitness. What it was never intended to do was replace muscle-strengthening exercise altogether. Organizations including the American College of Sports Medicine, the National Institute on Aging, and the World Health Organization consistently recommend combining regular aerobic activity with strength training because each supports a different part of healthy aging. That distinction changes everything. You do not have to choose between walking and strengthening your legs. The research points toward doing both. Walking keeps your body moving. Targeted resistance reminds your muscles that they are still needed. Once you see the difference, decades of advice begin to fit together instead of competing with one another. You can keep the habit that has served you well while adding one simple movement that addresses what walking alone cannot. Which brings us to the practical question you have been waiting for all along. What does the simplest version of this actually look like at home? I've expanded the 8th section below. Writing. Variant equals document ID equals 61347. Section 8. Practical protocol. The actionable advice. Now you have the missing piece. The goal was never to replace walking. It was to give your muscles the one signal they have been waiting for. The simplest exercise that does exactly that is the sit-to-stand exercise, sometimes called the chair squat. It looks almost ordinary, which is one reason many people underestimate it. Yet it closely mirrors one of the most important movements you perform every single day: standing up under your own strength. Begin with a sturdy chair that will not slide across the floor. Sit toward the front edge rather than leaning back against the chair. Place your feet about shoulder-width apart, with both feet flat on the floor. Allow your arms to cross comfortably over your chest if you are able. If you need extra confidence at first, lightly touch the armrests or a stable countertop nearby for support. But try not to push yourself upward with your hands unless it is necessary. Lean your upper body slightly forward from your hips while keeping your back comfortably straight. That small forward movement shifts your center of gravity over your feet and prepares your strongest leg muscles to work together. Press firmly through your heels, tighten your legs, and stand all the way up until your hips are fully extended. Pause for a moment, then slowly lower yourself back to the chair with control. Resist the temptation to drop into the seat. The lowering phase is just as valuable because your muscles remain active while controlling your body weight. Aim for 8 to 12 repetitions in a set. Rest for about 60 to 90 seconds before beginning the next one. Most healthy adults over 50 can begin with 2 or 3 sets performed 3 non-consecutive days each week. If 12 repetitions become comfortable, increase the repetitions gradually before making the movement more challenging. Consistency matters far more than intensity. As you repeat this movement, several important muscle groups begin working together. Your quadriceps straighten the knees and generate much of the lifting force. Your gluteal muscles power your hips as you rise. Your hamstrings help stabilize the movement while supporting the hips and knees. Your core stabilizers keep your trunk balanced, so your body moves as one coordinated unit instead of several disconnected parts. Even your balance system and nervous system become more efficient because your brain repeatedly practices recruiting the right muscles at the right time. Remember to breathe naturally. Exhale as you stand and inhale as you lower yourself back down. Avoid holding your breath, especially if you have high blood pressure, because steady breathing helps prevent unnecessary strain. Focus on smooth, controlled movement instead of speed. A slower repetition often teaches your muscles far more than a rushed one. Keep your daily walks. They continue supporting your heart, lungs, circulation, and overall endurance. This exercise simply adds the resistance your muscles have been missing. Together, they create a partnership that better reflects the way your body was designed to stay capable throughout later life. One important note before you begin. If you have uncontrolled hypertension, severe knee or hip arthritis, a recent surgery, advanced heart failure, significant balance disorders, kidney disease that limits your ability to exercise, or any other serious medical condition, this conversation should be between you and your healthcare professional before it becomes part of your routine. A personalized recommendation is always more valuable than a general one, and protecting your safety is part of protecting your long-term independence. Tomorrow morning, that familiar moment will arrive again, but it won't feel quite the same, though. Think back to that moment when you stood up from your chair. At the beginning of this conversation, it felt like an ordinary part of your morning. A brief hesitation, a hand reaching for support, a movement so familiar that it barely seemed worth noticing. Now, you can see it differently. That small pause is not simply a reminder of your age, it is your body communicating with you. Your muscles have not been asking for impossible workouts or expensive equipment. They have been waiting for the right kind of challenge, repeated often enough to remind them they are still needed. The encouraging part is that tomorrow gives you another opportunity to answer that message. Then the day after that, and the day after that. Small actions, repeated 365 times a year, have a remarkable way of shaping the future. Each controlled rise from a chair is more than an exercise. It is an investment in climbing stairs with confidence, walking without hesitation, and protecting the independence that makes everyday life feel like your own. Knowledge cannot stop time, but it can help you work with your biology instead of against it. And that is a choice you can begin making with your very next step. And if understanding the science behind everyday health decisions is valuable to you, and if this kind of explanation helps you understand your body with greater confidence, consider subscribing to continue learning how evidence-based biology supports healthy aging, one thoughtful conversation at a time, always grounded in science rather than passing trends together.